The emergency sirens had been silent for 3 days. That should have been a good sign. Instead, it made Marcus Chen's skin crawl with unease as he sat hunched over his computer screen in the research station's dim-lit communications room. Outside, the reinforced windows. Europa's icy surface stretched endlessly under Jupiter's pale glow, broken only by the skeletal remains of mining equipment, monuments to humanity's failed first attempt at colonizing this frozen moon. Still no word from Earth Command? Asked Dr. Sarah Kim, Marcus's research partner, as she entered carrying 2 steaming cups of synthetic coffee. Marcus shook his head, accepting the cup gratefully. Nothing. It's like they've all just vanished. He gestured at the silent communications array. 3 months since our last transmission got through. The relay stations between here and Mars aren't responding either. Sarah settled into the chair beside him, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the monitoring screens. Maybe the solar storm knocked out more systems than we thought. Maybe. Marcus didn't sound convinced. The storm had been massive, yes, but not unprecedented. They'd weathered worse before. Something else was happening out there in the vast darkness between worlds. Something that made the silence feel heavy and wrong. A soft chime from the motion sensors interrupted his brooding. Marcus frowned at the display. That's weird. External. Sensors are picking up movement near Landing Bay 2. Probably just ice settling again, Sarah said, but she was already pulling up the external camera feeds. The thermal regulators have been acting up since. She stopped mid-sentence. On the screen, a figure was walking across the ice toward their station, not stumbling like someone in a damaged suit, not struggling against the brutal cold and thin atmosphere, walking gracefully, as if Europa's harsh environment was nothing more than a pleasant evening stroll. That's impossible, Marcus whispered. No one can survive out there without a full environmental suit. The temperature alone. The figure stopped directly in front of the main airlock and looked up at the camera. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. Through the swirling ice crystals, he could see a face, unmistakably humanoid, but not quite human. The bone structure was too delicate, too perfect. The eyes too large and bright, even in the dim Jovian light. And the skin, it seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence like moonlight on water. Marcus, Sarah's voice was barely audible. She's not wearing a suit. The figure, clearly female, raised one elegant hand and pressed it against the airlock door. The metal began to glow softly where she touched it, frost melting and running in rivulets down the surface. How is she doing that? Marcus stood up so quickly his chair rolled backward. The external temperature is minus 180 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere is... The airlock cycled open. Both scientists stared at their monitors in shock. The airlock was cycling through its sequence without any input from their controls. The outer door sealed. Atmosphere flooded the chamber, and then the inner door opened with a soft hiss. That's not possible, Sarah said, her hands flying over the control panel. I'm not initiating the sequence. The system is running autonomously. Marcus was already moving toward the corridor that led to the airlock. Stay here. Monitor everything. If something goes wrong. Marcus, don't be an idiot. We don't know what... But he was already jogging down the hallway, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and impossible curiosity. As he rounded the corner, he saw her standing in the airlock chamber, completely unaffected by her journey across Europa's hostile surface. Up close, she was even more striking, tall and slender, with hair that seemed to shift between silver and deep blue depending on how the light caught it. Her clothing was simple but elegant, made of some material that looked like it had been woven from starlight itself. When she saw him, she smiled. It was a warm, gentle expression that somehow made the entire situation feel less terrifying and more surreal. Hello, Marcus, she said, and her voice was like music. Not quite human in its tonal quality, but perfectly understandable. I apologize for the dramatic entrance. I wasn't certain your atmospheric systems would accommodate me properly. Marcus found himself staring, his mouth slightly open. You know my name. How do you know my name? I know many things about you. she said, stepping forward with fluid grace. I know you've been alone on this frozen moon for 8 months studying the subsurface oceans. I know you've been trying to contact your homeworld with no success. And I know you're wondering if you'll ever see another human being again. The accuracy of her words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Who are you? What are you? She tilted, her head slightly, studying him with those impossibly large eyes. My name is Zara. As for what I am... She paused, seeming to consider her words carefully. I suppose you would call me an alien princess, though the translation isn't quite accurate. I am the daughter of the celestial dominion that governs this sector of space. Marcus felt the world tilt around him. Alien princess, right. Of course. He laughed, but it came out strained and slightly hysterical. And I suppose you just happened to be in the neighborhood? Actually, yes. Zara's expression grew more serious. Marcus, your world is in great danger. The silence you've been experiencing, it's not due to solar storms or equipment failure. Earth and its colonies are under siege. The laughter died in Marcus's throat. Siege? By who? The Devourers. They are an ancient race that consumes entire civilizations, leaving nothing behind but empty worlds and scattered debris. They've been moving through this galaxy for millennia, and now they've reached your solar system. Marcus staggered backward, until his shoulders hit the corridor wall. That's impossible. We would have detected them. Our deep space monitoring systems are designed to detect ships and technology similar to your own. Zara interrupted gently. The Devourers are far older and more advanced than anything humanity has encountered. They don't travel in ships as you understand them. They are ships in a sense, living vessels that can phase through normal space-time. The implications crashed over Marcus like a wave. Everyone on Earth, my family, may still be alive, Zara said quickly. The Devourers don't simply destroy, they harvest. They take the most promising specimens from each world they conquer, studying them, learning from them. Your people's creativity and adaptability would be valuable to them. But why are you telling me this? Why are you here? Zara moved closer, and Marcus caught a scent like ozone and distant stars. Because humanity has caught the attention of more than just the Devourers. There are those among the elder races who see potential in your species. Potential that could change the balance of power in this galaxy. She reached out and touched his arm gently. Her skin was warm despite her journey across Europa's frozen surface, and Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation where they made contact. I've been sent to make you an offer, Marcus Chen. An offer that could save not just your world, but your entire species. Marcus stared into her luminous eyes, seeing depths there that seemed to contain the wisdom of ages. What kind of offer? The kind that will require you to trust me completely, she said softly. The kind that will take you far from this frozen moon and into the heart of a galactic war that has been raging since before your star was born. Outside, Jupiter's great red spot glared down at Europa like a baleful eye, and Marcus realized that his quiet life as a researcher was about to end. Forever. I don't understand any of this, he said finally. Why me? I'm nobody special. I'm just a communications officer studying ice formations. Zara smiled again, and this time there was something almost sad in the expression. Oh, Marcus. You have no idea how special you really are. Your species has a gift that most of the galaxy has forgotten. The ability to hope in the face of impossible odds. That's why the Devourers fear you. And that's why I need your help. She stepped back, her expression becoming more formal. But first I must ask you something that will sound very strange. I've been traveling for many days, and my energy is depleted. Among my people, we restore ourselves through a process that requires proximity to compatible life forms. I need to rest, and I need to be near someone whose life force resonates with mine. Marcus blinked. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. I'm asking, Zara said, her cheeks taking on a faint luminescent flush. If I can sleep with you, tonight, human. Not in the way you might think. Simply to share space, to let our energies align. It's the only way I can regain enough strength to show you what I need to show you. Marcus felt his face grow hot. You want to sleep in my quarters? It's not what your species would consider intimate, she said quickly. It's more like meditation, shared consciousness. But yes, I need to be close to you. Your life force is particularly strong, and it resonates at a frequency that can help restore me. The entire situation was so far beyond Marcus's experience that he found himself nodding before he'd fully processed what he was agreeing to. Okay. Yes. If it will help you regain your strength so you can explain what's happening to my world, then yes. Zara's relief was visible. Thank you, Marcus. I know this is difficult to accept. Tomorrow, when I'm restored, I'll show you things that will make everything clear. But tonight, I just need to rest. As they walked back toward the main living quarters, Marcus's mind raced with questions. An alien princess, a galactic war, Earth under siege. And now she wanted to sleep in his room to restore her energy. His quiet life studying ice formations was definitely over. Chapter 2. Shared dreams. Marcus's quarters were sparse. A narrow bed, a small desk, a few personal items he'd brought from Earth. Zara examined the space with curious eyes, taking in the photographs of family and friends, the small collection of books, the guitar leaning against the wall. You play music, she observed, running her fingers along the instrument's strings. The sound it produced was somehow different when she touched it. Richer, more resonant. Not very well, Marcus admitted, suddenly self-conscious about his modest living space. It helps me think. When the communications were working, I used to play for the other research teams. Morale, you know? Zara smiled. Music is universal. Among my people, we believe that those who create harmony in sound can create harmony in life. Sarah's voice crackled through the comm system. Marcus, are you all right in there? The energy readings in your sector are unusual. Marcus glanced at Zara, who nodded encouragingly. I'm fine, Sarah. My guest is harmless. She's just going to rest here for the night. A pause. Guest? Marcus, what the hell is going on? The external sensors show impossible readings. Whatever came through that airlock isn't human. Marcus finished. I know. Her name is Zara, and she has information about what happened to Earth. We'll brief you tomorrow morning. Marcus. Sarah, trust me, please. I'll explain everything when I can. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, but I'm monitoring all systems. If anything goes wrong... Understood. Marcus turned off the comm and found Zara watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Your friend cares about you. Sarah's been my research partner for 2 years. We look out for each other. He gestured helplessly at the small room. I'm not sure how this is supposed to work. I mean, there's only one bed and... Marcus, Zara said gently, I want you to understand something. Among my people, physical proximity is not automatically connected to sexual intimacy the way it is with humans. What I'm asking for is something more like shared meditation. Our life energies will synchronize, and both of us will benefit. You'll sleep better than you have in months, and I'll regain the strength I need. She moved to the small window that looked out over Europa's desolate landscape. However, I should warn you that the process may involve shared dreams. You might see glimpses of my memories, and I might see yours. It's not intrusive, more like brief windows into each other's experiences. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed trying to process this. Shared dreams. Right. This day just keeps getting stranger. For what it's worth, Zara said, turning back. To him, I find your species fascinating. Your ability to maintain hope and humor in the face of isolation is remarkable. Most races would have descended into madness or despair by now. Some days I wonder if I have. Zara's clothing seemed to shift and change, becoming less formal and more suitable for rest. Still elegant, but softer somehow. May I? Marcus nodded and moved to one side of the narrow bed. As Zara settled beside him, he caught that scent again. Ozone and starlight and something indefinably alien, yet comforting. "Just close your eyes," she said softly. "Let your breathing sync with mine." Marcus had expected awkwardness, but instead he felt a strange sense of peace settling over him. Zara's presence was warm and calming, and gradually he became aware of a subtle rhythm. Not quite heartbeat, not quite breathing, but something that seemed to pulse through both of them. As sleep took him, Marcus's last conscious thought was that he felt safer than he had in months. The dreams, when they came, were unlike anything he'd ever experienced. He found himself standing on a vast crystalline platform suspended in space, surrounded by structures that defied physics as he understood it. Cities that grew like living things, their spires reaching toward distant stars. Ships that moved like schools of luminescent fish through the void between worlds. "This is Celestara," Zara's voice said beside him, and he turned to see her as she truly was. Not the slightly dimmed version that had walked into his station, but radiant with power and otherworldly beauty, the capital world of my father's domain. The scene shifted, and Marcus saw vast libraries that contained the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations, gardens where the plants themselves were sentient and communicated through patterns of light, academies where beings of incredible diversity studied arts and sciences beyond human comprehension. "It's beautiful," he breathed. "It was," Zara replied, and her voice carried infinite sadness. "This is what the Devourers destroyed. My home, my family, my entire civilization. I am the last of my kind, Marcus, the sole survivor of a race that once spanned 3 galaxies." The dream scene changed again, and Marcus witnessed horror beyond imagination. Dark shapes that seemed to absorb light itself, moving through space like a plague. Worlds going silent, one by one, as the Devourers consumed everything: matter, energy, even the basic structures of spacetime itself. "They don't just kill," Zara explained as they watched entire star systems wink out of existence. "They erase. They consume not just physical matter, but the very concept of existence. Civilizations they've destroyed are not just gone. It's as if they never were." Marcus felt tears on his face. "How do you fight something like that?" "You don't fight them," Zara said. "You survive them. You run, you hide, you preserve what you can, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find allies." The scene shifted once more, and Marcus saw something that made his heart leap: Earth, blue and beautiful and very much alive. But as he watched, he could see signs of the invasion. Strange distortions in space near the outer planets, communication blackouts spreading inward from the edge of the solar system. "They're being careful with your world," Zara explained. "They've learned from their encounter with my people. Humans have something they want to study before they consume you. That spark of defiance, that refusal to surrender even when defeat is certain." Marcus found himself in a different memory now, not Zara's, but his own. He was 8 years old, standing in his grandmother's kitchen, watching her make dumplings with impossible patience and skill. "Even when everything seems lost," his grandmother was saying, "we keep making something beautiful. That's what makes us human, Marcus. We create light in the darkness." He felt Zara's presence in the memory, her amazement at the simple profundity of those words. "Your grandmother was wise," Zara said as the dream began to fade. "That's exactly what we need to do now. Create light in the darkness." Marcus woke to find pale European dawn filtering through his window. Zara was still beside him, but she looked different, more vibrant, more present. The shared rest had clearly restored her strength. "Good morning," she said, and her voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there the night before. "I hope the dreams weren't too overwhelming." Marcus sat up, running his hands through his hair. "I saw your world. I saw what the Devourers did to it. I'm sorry. And I saw your grandmother's kitchen," Zara replied with a small smile. "I understand now why the Council of Remnants chose your species. You carry light within you, even in the darkest times." "Council of Remnants?" Zara rose from the bed with fluid grace. The survivors, representatives of all the civilizations the Devourers have touched. We've been gathering for centuries, preparing for this moment. She waved her hand, and the air in the room shimmered. Suddenly, the small space was filled with holographic displays showing star charts, tactical readouts, and images of dozens of different alien species. This is why I'm here, Marcus. Not just to warn you about the Devourers, but to invite humanity to join the remnants. Your species has something we've lost, the ability to inspire hope in others. But first, you need to understand what you're truly facing. Marcus stared at the displays, his mind reeling. What do you need from me? I need you to come with me to the Nexus, the hidden station where the remnants gather. I need you to speak for your species, to convince the Council that humanity is worth saving. And I need you to help us find a way to finally fight back. She turned to face him fully, and Marcus saw the weight of ages in her luminous eyes. The Devourers are coming for Earth, Marcus. They'll arrive in less than 6 months. We can evacuate some of your people, preserve your culture and knowledge. But if we're going to save your world, truly save it, we need to do something that's never been done before. What? Zara's smile was fierce and beautiful and terrifying. We need to teach the Devourers what it means to fear. A soft chime indicated that Sarah was requesting access to Marcus's quarters. As Zara waved her hand to dismiss the holographic displays, Marcus realized that his journey was about to begin in earnest. But first, he had to convince his best friend that the impossible was about to become routine. Chapter 3. The Nexus. Revelation. You want me to what? Sarah stared at Marcus as if he'd just suggested they take a casual stroll through a black hole. They were gathered in the station's main conference room, the three of them sitting around a table that had hosted countless mundane research meetings, but had never seen anything like this. Come with us to the Nexus, Marcus repeated. Zara's. People need to understand humanity better, and I can't speak for our entire species alone. Sarah turned to Zara, who had been patiently answering questions for the past hour. And this Nexus is where exactly? Approximately 14 light-years from here, Zara replied. Hidden within a nebula that your instruments can't penetrate. It's been the gathering place for the remnants for over 3,000 years. 14 light-years. Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. Right, and we're going to travel there how? Our fastest ships would take 47,000 years at maximum velocity, Zara finished. Yes, I'm aware of your technological limitations. We won't be using human transportation. She stood and moved to the center of the room. With your permission, I'd like to show you something. Sarah glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Okay, but no more impossible physics demonstrations. My brain is already at capacity. Zara smiled and raised her hands. The air around her began to shimmer, and suddenly the conference room was filled with a three-dimensional star map that showed their current position in space relative to Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. This is your solar system as it appeared 3 months ago, Zara explained. Red dots began appearing throughout the display, moving inward from the edge of the system. These are Devourer advanced scouts. They've been systematically disabling your communication networks and deep space monitoring stations. Sarah leaned forward, studying the display with the analytical mind that had made her one of Earth's top xenobiologists. The pattern is too coordinated to be random. They're cutting off each world's ability to call for help. Exactly. They learned from their encounter with my people that desperate civilizations sometimes find unexpected ways to fight back when they have nothing left to lose. The Devourers prefer to isolate their prey before feeding. The display zoomed in on Earth, and Marcus felt his stomach clench as he saw the red dots surrounding his home world like a closing fist. How long do we have? He asked. Based on their current pattern, approximately 5 months before they begin the final phase of the invasion, Zara replied. But there's something else you need to understand. The display changed again, showing what looked like massive structures in space, if structures was even the right word. They seemed to be part machine, part living organism, stretching for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. The Devourers aren't invaders in the traditional sense, Zara explained. They're more like farmers. They cultivate civilizations, allow them to develop to a certain point, then harvest them. Your species has reached the harvesting stage. Sarah stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. This is insane. You're talking about our entire civilization being treated like cattle. Yes, Zara said simply. That's exactly what I'm talking about. But there's hope, Sarah. That's why I'm here. The display shifted once more, showing dozens of different alien species gathered in what appeared to be a massive space station hidden within swirling clouds of cosmic dust. The Nexus, Zara explained, built from the wreckage of the first world the Devourers consumed. It's been expanded over centuries as more civilizations have been destroyed and their survivors have joined us. Marcus studied the images of the various alien species. Some were humanoid, others were so different from human physiology that he couldn't even determine how they moved or communicated. But all of them had one thing in common, a look of grim determination. How many? Sarah asked quietly. 733 distinct species, Zara replied. The survivors of nearly 2,000 civilizations, all united by a single purpose to find a way to stop the Devourers. And have you? Found a way? Zara's expression grew somber. We've learned to survive. We've developed technologies to hide from them, to preserve our cultures and knowledge. We've even managed to rescue some individuals from worlds under attack. But stop them? No. The Devourers are older than most of the stars in this galaxy. Their technology is beyond anything we can comprehend. She turned to face both humans directly. Until now, your species has something the rest of us have lost over the centuries of running and hiding. You still fight when you should surrender. You still hope when hope is impossible. You still create beauty in the face of annihilation. Sarah returned to the table, her scientific mind clearly struggling with the implications. What exactly are you asking of us? I'm asking you to come with me to the Nexus, to share your perspective with the Council of Remnants, and to help us develop a strategy that's never been attempted before. Which is? Zara's smile was fierce. Instead of running from the Devourers, we're going to give them something they've never encountered before, a united front. 700 species working together, using everything we've learned from thousands of years of survival. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with Europa's cold atmosphere. You're talking about war. I'm talking about survival, Zara corrected. The Devourers have consumed countless civilizations, but they've never faced organized resistance on this scale. Your species' gift for inspiration could be the catalyst that finally unites us all. The room fell silent except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Sarah was the first to speak. Assuming we agree to this insane plan, how do we get to your Nexus? You mentioned we wouldn't be using human transportation. Zara moved to the window and placed her hand against the reinforced glass. Outside, the surface of Europa began to glow with a soft, pulsing light. My ship is buried beneath the ice, she explained. It's been waiting for 3 days, regenerating after the journey here. It's not large, but it's equipped with technology that will get us to the Nexus in approximately 18 hours. Sarah blinked. 18 hours to travel 14 light years. That's impossible. So was my survival on Europa's surface without an environmental suit, Zara pointed out. Your species is about to discover that the universe is far stranger and more wondrous than you ever imagined. Marcus looked out at the glowing ice, trying to imagine what kind of ship could survive burial in Europa's frozen surface. If we do, if we come with you, what happens to Earth while we're gone? The Devourers won't begin their final assault for months, Zara replied. We'll have time to present your case to the Council, develop a strategy, and return with help. But I won't lie to you, this is dangerous. The Nexus exists in a state of constant hiding from the Devourers. Simply traveling there puts us at risk. Kroon rubbed her temples. Let me see if I understand this correctly. You want us to abandon our research station, travel to a hidden alien base using impossible technology, speak on behalf of our entire species to a council of 700 alien civilizations, and help develop a strategy to fight beings that have been consuming galaxies for millennia. That's a reasonably accurate summary, Zara agreed. And if we refuse? Zara's expression grew sad. Then in 5 months your world will be consumed, Your people will be harvested, and your species will become just another entry in the Devourers' vast collection of conquered civilizations. The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of impossible choices. Finally, Marcus stood up. "I'm in." Sarah stared at him. "Marcus, you can't be serious. This is the only chance we have," he finished. "Sarah, look at the evidence. The communication blackouts, the silence from Earth, the patterns Zara showed us. Something is happening out there, something bad. Even if there's only a small chance she's telling the truth, can we afford not to take it?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment, studying the holographic displays that still floated in the air around them. "The scientific part of my brain is screaming that this is all impossible, but the human part—" She looked up at Zara. "The human part recognizes truth when I hear it." She stood up slowly. "All right, I'm in too. But I have conditions." "Name them," Zara said. "First, we leave a complete record of everything that's happened here, including all sensor data and recordings of our conversations. If something happens to us, whoever comes looking will know what we discovered." "Agreed. Second, we maintain contact with the station as long as possible during our journey. I want to monitor Earth's situation in real time." "Also agreed. And third," Sarah's voice grew steely, "if this turns out to be some kind of elaborate deception, if you're not who you claim to be or this nexus doesn't exist, I will find a way to make you regret it." Zara's smile was genuinely warm. "I would expect nothing less from a representative of humanity. Your conditions are all reasonable and accepted." Marcus felt a mixture of terror and excitement coursing through him. "When do we leave?" "As soon as you're ready," Zara replied. "My ship has finished its regeneration cycle. We can depart within the hour." As they began preparing for a journey beyond anything they'd ever imagined, Marcus caught Sarah's eye. "No turning back now?" "No," Sarah agreed, checking her equipment pack one final time. "But Marcus, if we're about to become the first human, ambassadors to an alien alliance, we'd better not screw it up." Outside, Europa's ice continued to glow with alien light, and somewhere beneath the frozen surface, a ship that could traverse the galaxy in hours was preparing to carry two humans toward their destiny. The quiet life of studying ice formations was definitely over. Chapter 4. The Price of Hope. The ship that emerged from Europa's ice was nothing like Marcus had imagined. It wasn't the sleek, metallic vessel of human science fiction, nor was it the organic-looking craft he might have expected from Zara's descriptions. Instead, it seemed to be made of crystallized light itself, translucent, constantly shifting, beautiful in a way that made his eyes water if he looked at it directly. "It's alive," Sarah breathed as they approached through the airlock tube that had somehow extended itself from their station to the ship's entrance. "It's actually alive." "In a sense," Zara agreed. "The ships of my people are grown rather than built. This one has been my companion for over a century. Her name translates roughly to swift current through stars." The interior was even more remarkable than the exterior. The walls seemed to pulse gently with their own light, and Marcus could swear he felt the ship's consciousness brushing against his mind. Curious, welcoming, but utterly alien. "She likes you," Zara said, noticing his expression. "That's unusual. My people's ships are normally very selective about who they'll accept as passengers." The bridge, if it could be called that, was a spherical chamber at the ship's heart. As they entered, the walls became transparent, giving them a 360-degree view of the space around Europa. Marcus felt a moment of vertigo as he realized there was no floor or ceiling. They were simply floating in the center of the sphere, held in place by some invisible force. "Comfortable?" Zara asked, noting their expressions. "It's incredible," Marcus replied, "but also terrifying." "A reasonable response," Zara said with a smile. "Swift current. We're ready to depart for the Nexus. Standard approach through the veil." The ship's response wasn't audible, but Marcus felt it somehow. A sense of acknowledgement of preparation. Through the transparent walls, he watched Europa fall away beneath them with impossible speed. Within moments, Jupiter itself was shrinking to a point of light behind them. The veil is what we call the barrier between normal space and the dimension we use for faster-than-light travel, Zara explained as stars began to stretch into lines around them. Your species has theoretical knowledge of similar concepts: hyperspace, warp drives, folded space. The reality is somewhat different. The transition, when it came, was unlike anything Marcus could have imagined. One moment they were looking at normal space, the next they were surrounded by swirling patterns of color and light that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. It was beautiful and nauseating at the same time. The journey to the Nexus will take approximately 16 hours, Zara said. I suggest you try to rest. The Council of Remnants will want to hear from you immediately upon our arrival. Sarah, who had been unusually quiet since boarding the ship, finally spoke up. Zara, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Of course. Why, us? Specifically, I mean. You said you've been observing humanity for some time. There are billions of humans on Earth. Scientists, leaders, philosophers, artists. People who could speak for our species far better than a communications officer and a xenobiologist stuck on a research station. Why Marcus and me? Zara was quiet for a long moment, her luminous eyes fixed on the swirling patterns outside the ship. Because you're the ones who didn't give up, she said finally. When the communications went silent, when the world seemed to forget you existed, you kept working. You kept hoping. You kept making something beautiful in the darkness. She turned to face them both. The Council has observed many civilizations at the moment of their potential extinction. Most of them fall into despair when they realize what they're facing. Their representatives come to the Nexus broken, defeated, looking for someone else to save them. But you, even before I told you about the Devourers, even when you thought you were alone and forgotten, you were still trying to contact Earth, still studying Europa's oceans, still believing that your work mattered. Marcus felt a chill. You've been watching us. For months, Zara confirmed. Not just you two, but observation teams throughout your solar system. We needed to understand what makes your species unique before we could present your case to the Council. And what did you find? Sarah asked. That humans are insane, Zara replied, but she was smiling as she said it. Beautifully, wonderfully insane. When faced with impossible odds, most species either surrender or destroy themselves, fighting uselessly. Humans do something else entirely. You change the rules of the game. The ship shuddered slightly and the patterns outside shifted. Marcus felt a moment of disorientation, as if reality itself had hiccuped. We're entering the nebula of echoes, Zara explained. The space around the Nexus is complicated. The Remnants have spent centuries modifying the local physics to hide from the Devourers. Through the transparent walls, Marcus could see vast clouds of luminescent gas swirling around them in impossible patterns. Within the clouds, he caught glimpses of something massive, structures that seemed to exist partially in normal space, and partially somewhere else entirely. The Nexus, Zara said softly. Home to the last free beings in this galaxy. As they drew closer, Marcus began to understand the true scope of what the Remnants had built. The station wasn't just large, it was enormous beyond comprehension. Cities built on the hulls of dead starships, gardens growing in zero gravity, entire ecosystems contained within transparent bubbles that drifted through the nebula like living planets. How many beings live here? Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. Approximately 50 million, Zara replied. Representatives and refugees from every civilization the Devourers have touched. It's the largest gathering of sapient beings in known space. Swift current glided toward a docking bay that looked like it had been carved from a crystalline asteroid. As they approached, Marcus could see other ships, vessels of design so alien that his mind struggled to process them. Some moved like living creatures, others seemed to phase in and out of reality, and a few appeared to be made of pure energy held in geometric patterns. Remember, Zara said as they prepared to disembark, you're not just representing humanity to the Council. You're representing hope itself. Many of these beings have been running from the Devourers for centuries, They've forgotten what it means to fight back. The docking procedure was surprisingly gentle. Swift currents settled into the bay like a bird landing on a familiar perch, and suddenly they were standing on solid ground again, though Marcus noticed that ground here seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as Zara's ship. "Ambassador Zara," a voice said behind them. Marcus turned to see a being that looked like it had stepped out of a fever dream, tall and impossibly thin, with skin that shifted between different metallic hues and eyes like black holes. "The Council has been waiting for your return, and these must be the humans." "Indeed," Zara replied formally. "Marcus Chen and Dr. Sarah Kim, may I present Council Member Vexhai of the Fourth Confluence. His people were among the first to join the remnants." Vexhai moved closer, and Marcus caught a scent like ozone and burning copper. "Fascinating. Their bioenergetic patterns are quite unusual. I can see why you believe they might be the catalyst we've been seeking." "Catalyst for what?" Sarah asked. Vexhai's expression, if it could be called an expression, seemed amused. "For the impossible, Dr. Kim. For the one thing the remnants have never been able to achieve in 3,000 years of hiding." "Which is?" "Victory," Zara said simply. "Come, the council is assembled and waiting." They walked through corridors that defied architecture as Marcus understood it. The walls curved in ways that should have been geometrically impossible, and gravity seemed to shift direction depending on which surface you were standing on. Beings of dozens of different species moved past them, some walking, others floating, a few that seemed to exist as patterns of light or sound. "This is incredible," Marcus murmured. "How do you coordinate all of this? The different atmospheric requirements, the varying gravitational needs." "The nexus exists in a state of controlled dimensional flux," Vexhai explained. "Each area adapts to the needs of its current occupants. It's one of the few benefits of being refugees. You learn to be very adaptable." They entered a vast chamber at the heart of the station, and Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The Council of Remnants was assembled in a perfect sphere around them, with representatives of hundreds of different species arranged in concentric rings that extended both above and below. The diversity was overwhelming. Beings of crystal and flesh, creatures of pure energy, hive minds that spoke with thousands of voices, ancient artificial intelligences housed in bodies of living metal. At the center of it all, floating in a sphere of soft light, was a figure that seemed to be made of starlight itself. "The Prime Speaker," Zara whispered. "The first survivor. Her civilization was destroyed when the Devourers first entered this galaxy. Over 50,000 years ago." The Prime Speaker's voice resonated through the chamber without sound. Marcus felt the words directly in his mind. "Welcome, children of Earth. We have observed your species with great interest. You come to us at a time when hope itself has become our most precious and rarest resource." Marcus stepped forward, feeling the weight of countless alien gazes upon him. "Prime Speaker, we're honored to be here. But I have to ask, why us? Why our species? We're barely spacefaring. We've never encountered alien life before today. What could we possibly offer to beings who have survived for millennia?" A sound like distant music filled the chamber, the Prime Speaker's version of laughter. "Child of Earth, you offer us the one thing we have lost in our long flight from the Devourers. You offer us the audacity to believe that the impossible is merely difficult." The sphere around them shifted, and suddenly Marcus and Sarah were looking at holographic displays showing human history, wars and discoveries, art and science, the slow but steady expansion from Earth to Mars to the outer colonies. "Your species has a pattern," the Prime Speaker continued. "When faced with insurmountable obstacles, you do not surrender. You do not merely adapt. You transform the very nature of the challenge itself." Sarah spoke up. "You're talking about our wars." "I'm talking about your evolution," the Prime Speaker replied. "Other species develop technology to overcome their environment. Humans develop technology to reshape reality itself. You split the atom not to power your civilization, but to ensure that no enemy could threaten your survival. You reached for The stars not because you needed new worlds, but because the idea of being confined to one planet was intolerable to you. Marcus felt a chill as he began to understand. You want us to help you change the nature of the conflict with the Devourers. Precisely. The display shifted again, showing star charts and tactical readouts. For 3,000 years, the remnants have focused on survival, hiding, running, preserving what we could. It has been a successful strategy in that we still exist, but it is not a winning strategy. Vexhai moved closer to the humans. The Devourers consume approximately 100 civilizations per year, spread across multiple galaxies. At that rate, they will eventually find and consume us all, no matter how well we hide. So what's the alternative? Sarah asked. The Prime. Speaker's presence intensified, and Marcus felt the weight of 50,000 years of accumulated wisdom and grief. We stop running. We stop hiding. We make the Devourers fear us. The chamber fell silent except for the subtle harmonics of the Nexus's systems. Marcus looked around at the assembled representatives, beings who had survived the destruction of their worlds, their civilizations, everything they had ever known. You're asking us to help you plan a war against an enemy that has never been defeated, he said finally. No, Zara said, and her voice carried new authority. We're asking you to help us plan a war against an enemy that has never been fought. There's a difference. Sarah stepped forward. What makes you think we can succeed where others have failed? Because, the Prime Speaker replied, your species has something the Devourers have never encountered before. The willingness to sacrifice everything for a cause greater than your own survival. The Devourers understand hunger, consumption, the drive to grow and consume. They do not understand love. Marcus felt the truth of those words resonate through the chamber. What do you need from us? Your perspective, your strategies, your willingness to think in ways that we, in our long exile, have forgotten how to think. The Prime Speaker paused. And perhaps most importantly, your ability to inspire others to believe that victory is possible. The displays around them shifted once more, showing a timeline that stretched into the future. The Devourers will reach Earth in 4 months and 17 days. We have that long to prepare a response that will not only save your world, but begin the liberation of this entire galaxy. Sarah laughed, but it wasn't a sound of humor. 4 months to plan and execute a military operation against beings who have been conquering galaxies for millennia. No pressure. Dr. Kim, Vexhai said, if it were easy, we would have done it centuries ago. Marcus looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of nearly 1,000 civilizations. Each one had lost everything to the Devourers. Each one had survived through cunning, luck, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. And now, they were asking 2 humans from a backwater research station to help them attempt the impossible. All right, he said finally. Where do we start? The Prime Speaker's presence warmed with something that might have been hope. We start by showing you exactly what we're up against. And then we begin planning something that has never been attempted in the history of this galaxy, a coordinated assault on a Devourer world ship. As the chamber began to reconfigure itself around them, transforming into something resembling a war room, Marcus caught Sarah's eye. She looked terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. Still think we should have stayed on Europa studying ice formations? He asked. Ask me again when this is over, she replied. If we survive, I'll let you know. Outside the Nexus, hidden in the swirling clouds of the nebula, the last free beings in the galaxy began preparing for a war that would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of all sapient life. The impossible was about to become merely difficult. Epilogue: The Light in the Darkness. 6 months later, Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Phoenix, humanity's first interstellar warship, built with technology gifted by the remnants and powered by human determination. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the assembled fleet. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all converging on a single point in space where long-range sensors had detected a Devourer world ship approaching Earth. Final systems. Check complete. Sarah's voice crackled through the comm system. As the Phoenix's chief scientific officer, she had spent the last 4 months helping to integrate alien technologies with human engineering principles. All ships report ready for Phase 1 of Operation Lighthouse. Operation Lighthouse, the plan they had developed in the war rooms of the Nexus, refined through countless simulations and strategic sessions. Not to destroy the Devourers, that was still beyond their capabilities, but to send them a message they had never received before, that their prey had learned to bite back. Marcus, Zara's voice said beside him. She had remained as his liaison. Throughout the preparation period and somewhere along the way, their working relationship had become something deeper. Are you ready for this? Marcus looked out at the fleet. Ships from civilizations that had been running and hiding for millennia, now united in common purpose. At the center of the formation, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, unaware that its fate was about to be decided in the darkness between worlds. As ready as anyone can be for something this insane, he replied. The plan was ambitious beyond anything the remnants had ever attempted. Instead of engaging the Devourer world ship directly, they would use a coordinated series of dimensional distortions to trap it in a pocket of folded spacetime. The ship wouldn't be destroyed, but it would be cut off from the rest of the Devourer fleet, isolated and vulnerable to study. For the first time in galactic history, the Devourers would become the prey. All units, this is Phoenix Command. Admiral Zhang's voice carried across all frequencies. She was one of the few Earth military officers who had been briefed on the situation, recalled from the Mars colonies to lead humanity's first interstellar battle group. We have confirmation of the target's approach vector. Devourer world ship designated Tartarus is on final approach to Earth orbital space. Through the observation port, Marcus could see it now, a dark shape against the stars that seemed to absorb light itself. The Devourer world ship was massive beyond comprehension, easily the size of Earth's moon, and covered in organic-looking structures that pulsed with malevolent life. All ships, execute Phase 1, Admiral Zhang commanded. What happened next was beautiful and terrible to witness. Ships from across the galaxy moved in perfect coordination, each one contributing to a pattern of energy that began to reshape local space-time around the Devourer vessel. The very fabric of reality bent and twisted, creating a prison of folded dimensions. For a moment, Marcus thought they had succeeded. The world ship slowed, seeming to struggle against the dimensional constraints. But then it began to adapt, its organic hull shifting and changing as it learned to navigate the altered space around it. It's breaking free, Sarah reported, her voice tight with tension. Phase 2, Admiral Zhang commanded. All units, initiate Phase 2. This was the part of the plan that had required the most human input, the part that no other species had thought to attempt. Instead of trying to contain or destroy the Devourer ship, they were going to communicate with it. The message they broadcast was simple but profound, a compilation of human art, music, literature, and philosophy, encoded in mathematical principles that any intelligent species should be able to understand. But more than that, it was a declaration that humanity existed, that they had value, and that they would not go quietly into extinction. The Devourer world ship stopped. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a Devourer vessel had paused in its consumption to listen. Signal response from the target, Sarah reported, her voice filled with wonder. They're sending something back. What came through the communication channels wasn't words or images, but pure concept, ancient, vast, and utterly alien. Marcus felt it wash over his consciousness like a tide of dark stars, hunger that spanned eons, loneliness beyond measure, and underneath it all, something that might have been curiosity. They want to understand us, Zara breathed. The Devourers. They're trying to understand what makes us different. The exchange that followed lasted only minutes, but felt like hours. Humanity's creative spirit, touching an intelligence so old and vast that it had forgotten what it meant to create rather than consume. For a brief moment, Marcus felt a connection span the gulf between species, predator and prey, recognizing something valuable in each other. Then the Devourer world ship began to withdraw. Target is changing course, Sarah reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "Moving away from Earth orbital space. Admiral, they're leaving." The celebration that erupted across the fleet was audible even through the vacuum of space. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds cheering as they witnessed something impossible. A devourer retreating. But Marcus knew it wasn't a victory in the traditional sense. The world ship hadn't been defeated. It had been given something to think about. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, other devourers would learn of this encounter and wonder what they might be missing by simply consuming every civilization they encountered. "It's not over," he said to Zara, as they watched Earth's first dawn as a truly free world. "This was just the beginning." "Yes," she agreed, taking his hand in hers, "but it's a beginning we made together. Your species and mine, and all the others who chose to hope instead of despair." Sarah joined them at the observation port, still running calculations on her tablet. "The Nexus is receiving reports from across the galaxy. Other devourer fleets are hesitating. Some are actually withdrawing from systems they were preparing to consume. They're learning," Marcus realized. "The message we sent, it wasn't just for the one ship. They're a collective intelligence. What one learns, they all learn." "And what they've learned," Zara said with a smile that contained the light of distant stars, "is that the universe contains wonders worth preserving as well as consuming." As the combined fleet began its journey back to the Nexus, Marcus thought about his grandmother's words. "Even when everything seems lost, we keep making something beautiful. That's what makes us human." It had taken an alien princess visiting his room in the middle of the night to help him understand that making something beautiful didn't always mean art or music or poetry. Sometimes it meant hope itself. The audacious belief that even the darkest night could be illuminated by a single candle. The war wasn't over. There would be other battles, other challenges, other moments when the impossible would need to become merely difficult. But for the first time in 50,000 years, the Devourers had learned that they were not alone in the universe, and that some of the other intelligences they shared it with were worth knowing rather than consuming. In his quarters aboard, the Phoenix, Marcus kept a single photograph from Earth, his grandmother in her kitchen making dumplings with infinite patience and love. Next to it he had placed a small crystal that Zara had given him, containing captured starlight from her destroyed homeworld. Light in the darkness. Beauty in the face of annihilation. Love, stronger than the hunger that devoured galaxies. And, in the deep spaces between worlds, ancient minds that had forgotten what it meant to wonder began to remember the joy of discovery. The universe was vast and full of terrors, but it was also full of wonders, and for the first time in eons the balance was shifting toward wonder. Marcus smiled as he prepared for sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges but also new possibilities. After all, if an alien princess could visit a lonely human's room in the middle of the night and change the fate of galaxies, then anything at all might be possible. Even hope. Especially hope. The end.